Hey guys, how's it going? It's JT from Hustle and Profit. Welcome back to another Unreal Engine 5 tutorial. In today's tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to create a main menu system from scratch, like the one you see here on screen. Starting from designing the graphics for it in Photoshop to importing them into Unreal Engine and implementing them into your own personal projects, and having everything work like it should and in the most efficient way possible. So let's get into today's tutorial. So to start, let's open up Photoshop. Now if you have all your graphics created already, you can skip to part 2. I'll throw that video up on screen. I'll also have the link to it down in the description, and you can go continue from there. But for those of us who still need to create the graphics, let's open up Photoshop and select 1920 by 1080 as your document size with a 72 resolution as you see me do here. Okay, so now that we have our blank document in Photoshop, you're going to want to create a background for your main menu. Now you want to have the background match the theme of your game. So the name of my game that I'm creating right now is called Death Sentence, and that's why I'm using an image along these lines. Now if you see in the background, my image isn't the same size as 1920 by 1080. Now I'm going to be using the stamp tool to stretch that image out without actually having to stretch the image and make it all pixelated. So that's all I'm doing here. So right now you want to be finding yourself an image that you could use. Now there's plenty of free websites that you can get images from, or you could photo bash an image together, whatever you plan on doing. But come across an awesome image that you feel suits your game the best and make that your background image. So now that you got your background image placed how you like it and everything like that, there's also more you can do to it. Like as you see me doing here, I'm going to add the main character from my game onto the main menu screen. So the way that I did that was I just opened up Unreal Engine and I opened up my character blueprint and I took a screenshot of my computer screen and I just imported that into Photoshop, and I'm using the pen tool to go around him to be able to cut him out from the background like you see me doing. And I'm going to have him on my main menu screen as well. Now you don't have to do these things as I'm doing here, but I'm just showing you like how I designed mine, and you can, either do something along those lines or do something completely different. Like I said, it's your game. You choose how you want to do it. But once we get into designing the buttons and everything like that, that's when you'll more so want to like follow along. But I'm just trying to show you like different little things that you can do to create your own custom menu. So now I'm going to use the rectangular marquee tool, and I'm going to create a black banner, and I also just changed the opacity to it, and I'm going to use that for my title of my game. Now also I'm going to add a little bit of a gradient overlay to my background image, and it's just to adjust it to the color that I would prefer. And it also works really good for blending in the stamped part of the background that I did. Blends that stamped part into the original image very well when you add a gradient overlay over top of it. So that's another reason why I did that, just so you guys know. And then I also used a custom brush, and it's in the shape of a dagger. It's like textured, as you can see on screen, and I used that just to add some depth to the image. And I also made that my eraser, and I erased those little stamps out of my banner that I had created, just to give it some flair. Now you can do any of these types of things to your main menu. It's just, these are just custom things that I wanted to do. Up to this point, it's all up to your own creativity and exactly how you guys want to do it. Okay, so now that we got our background somewhat designed fully, I want to go jump into starting to create the button layout. So now you're going to hit your text tool, and you're going to create a few different buttons. We're going to create new game, continue, load game, options, credits, and quit, like you see me doing here on screen. Now you can pick your own custom text. You can download tons of texts offline. I always download a lot from 1001 free fonts or something like that. It's along those lines. If you go to Google and type in free fonts, you'll be able to find it. Download a custom font, use whatever best suits a theme of your game, and create those same buttons like you see me do here. Okay, so now we have the text of our buttons laid out, but we don't have our buttons. So the way that I did this was I used the rectangular marquee tool, and I just outlined my button in the shape, I outlined my text in the shape of the button that I wanted to make. So like you see me doing here on screen, you can fill that with any color because it doesn't really matter. We're going to be changing that in the layer styles. So just make your, grab your marquee tool, make your button layout, and then just fill it with any color. Now we're going to go to our blending options, and you can make this any color you want. This is where you can be custom too. It's not like you have to follow along with exactly what I'm doing. So pick any color, any gradient, how you want to bevel it, stroke, anything. Be creative, make it your style, do whatever you want to do. Also, you want to make sure that every button, every text, everything that you create is all done on separate layers. You do not want anything to be on the same layer. Your background stuff, that's fine to have all that in one layer, but as for buttons, text, anything like that, you're always going to want everything to be on separate layers like you see on my screen over there in the layers panel. I never have anything on the same layer because at the end we need to turn everything into its own smart object in order to export it into Unreal Engine, and if it's all on one layer, it just won't work properly. So now that you'll see here that I select the text of my new game button, and I'm going to change the blending options on that just so that way that's the color of my button when nobody is selecting it, because you got to remember when you're in game and you go to select a button, sometimes it'll highlight or it'll change color. So right now this is just going to be the original color of all my different types of buttons. So you're going to create whatever style of button you or color, like see how I changed my gradient, I put a stroke around it, a drop shadow. Be creative, do whatever you want to do, but make sure that you're going to do that same style for every single one of your buttons for new game, continue, load game, options, credit, etc. So now all you can do is you can just duplicate your button box by hitting Control J, and it'll duplicate the box, and then you can just bring your continue text in. And now a little secret to change the layer style over to from new game over to continue. If you right click like you see me do here and go down to copy layer style, and then you click on continue, and then you right click, and then you can just paste layer style, so that way you don't need to go in and make the exact same color and all that same stuff on your text like you just previously did. It's a hell of a lot quicker. Just so you guys know, that's how I did that so quickly. And you're going to want to do this for every single one of your buttons, and you're going to want to space them out properly like you see me doing here, and place them on your menu screen where you would like them to be placed. Now this is it back to you again, where you can be completely creative and do exactly how you guys want to do it. So now that we've gotten this far, now I just came in and I put on the final touches on the main menu. I added some texture to my buttons. I went on Google and I found some grunge textures and I brought it into Photoshop and I just made them a layer mask over top of my buttons. That's how you see me give the buttons texture like that. I ended up blending the main character head in with some dagger strokes, and everything you see me doing here was just some final touches on the main menu for me to have my final product before I start to import some of my images. That's as far as we've got so far. I just wanted to make sure all my little final touches were done before we started importing anything into Unreal Engine. Now I also decided to go back through all my title of my game and all the button text. I didn't like the text style, so I went back in and I changed the text style to match something more that suited my game. You don't have to go back and do that if you don't want to. That's just something I wanted to do, but I didn't want to not show you guys me doing that, so that's the only reason why that changed, was just because I just wanted it to look better cosmetically for me. If you guys like the style of the text that I'm using, you're more than welcome to use it. You can see it on the screen. If not, use a different text that you like, and that's about it. Now we're ready to slowly start importing this stuff into Unreal Engine. But before we do that, we need to be able to, in our layers panel, align everything and set everything up properly. So if you look over in my layers panel, you'll notice that I have a button, and then I have the new game text on top of that button. Then I'll have another button, and then I'll have the continue text on top of the continue text's button. And you want to set it up that way all the way through in your layers panel. So that way you have your text and then the button right underneath your text. Now get all that set up, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so now that you have your layers set up, we're going to make sure you duplicate these layers and put them into a folder by pressing Control G once you've duplicated the layers. Just turn these off for now, but they're good to have for later on when we make our clicked version of each button, because you're going to want to either change the color of your text or the color of your button or whatever. And if you were to merge these layers like we're going to do in the next few steps, you won't be able to go back and edit them. That was a mistake I made when I first did it. So that's why you don't even see that in my Photoshop file right now, because I didn't do that right away. I had to come back and then remake all my buttons and text, and it was just a big pain in the ass. So trust me, just duplicate all your layers and all your buttons, your text, all that stuff, put it in a folder and just turn it off. So now that you have your buttons all set up with the text above the button, now you need to rasterize each and every layer. And then once all your layers are rasterized, you're gonna merge your text layer with your button layer like you see me do here. And once you've done that, for all of your buttons, rename them to match your coinciding button in your main menu. And then when you're done that, I'm going to have you right click and you're going to convert each layer into its own separate smart object. Okay, so now this is where I had to correct the buttons that I never duplicated and put into a folder like I got you guys to do earlier. So now you guys can open that folder and you're going to want to change the text color or the button color, because these style buttons are going to represent when the button is clicked. So that's why you see here that I have a continue button with white writing and one with green. I even changed a little bit of the color of the button as well, so that way when you click it, you see a little bit of a difference. And I'm going to make the green button my default button color. And when you move your cursor over top of the button, it will give you that white text and that little bit of a different color shift in your button. So now you guys should have 2 sets of every button, one just as the normal design and one for when you are hovering over it with your cursor or clicking it. Every button should be converted into its own smart object. Also, what I did was I made a folder on my computer to export all these PNGs to, just so they're easy to find. So once you've done that, double click on your button and it'll open it up into a separate document. Now this is where you want to export it from, not from the main document, or the size of the button will export as a 1920 by 1080 and not the actual size of the button. So what'll happen is when you're in Unreal Engine and you go to click on, say, new game, the button will be the whole size of the screen. It won't just be that little size of the button that you actually created. So make sure you open it up as a smart object in that new document, and that's where you export it from, or else just nothing will work properly. You also want to do this for each and every layer you export. You're going to export each layer as a PNG to a location on your computer. Like I said, I did it into its own folder just to make it easy to find when it comes time to importing it into Unreal. Also, another thing that makes it really organized and easy is naming it how I did. Like, I'll have new game non-highlighted, new game highlighted. Just like you see here, I'll put it up on screen how I did it, just so that way you can like understand what I'm trying to say. This is how your folder or wherever you're exporting them should look. You should have 2 of every single button, so that way when it comes time to importing it into Unreal, we'll have it all prepared and ready just to set up, and there's no coming back to Photoshop. So before opening Unreal Engine, I added this camera graphic around the outside edges for my main menu design. And I also decided to create a credits page just because it's easy to create and it's we're already in Photoshop, so we might as well get that done and over with. And you're going to want to start out by getting rid of the title of your game and changing the title to credits. And making sure that all your buttons in the background are off, so that way it just looks like the one that you're seeing here on screen now. And then I added all the credits for my new indie game that I'm dropping in the next couple of months. Make sure you stay tuned for that. I'll be dropping plenty of tutorials, indie game devlogs, all that type of stuff. So also make sure you rasterize and you convert your layers into smart objects. Just like we did before, it's just rinse and repeat from before. Now, once all that's done and you've exported your credits page, make sure to save your Photoshop file, because we will be coming back for our options page as well as making a custom back button. Now, that concludes today's tutorial. This is going to be part 1 of a 3-part series in creating your own indie game main menu design, fully functional and efficient. Part 2 will be dropping tomorrow. In part 2, I'll be showing you guys how to implement all the graphics we created today into your Unreal Engine 5 project. We'll be making it fully functional and efficient for any system that you'll be using. So be on the lookout for that to drop tomorrow. And without further ado, have a good night and thanks for watching.